These conditions aren't good.
Okay, excuse me, please. We're gonna start the meeting. I'm sorry there's no air conditioning here tonight. We're gonna do our best. So we're gonna call to order the Planning Commission meeting, special meeting, Monday, July 10th, 2023 at 6:30. Actually, 6:38. Determination of quorum, Mr. Kenny.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Mr. Reyes.
Here.
Mr. Burke.
Here.
Mr. Price.
Here.
Mrs. Elderkin.
Here.
Secretary Anderson.
Here.
Vice Chair Kalunian.
Here.
Chairman Flynn is here. We have a full quorum of 9. Emergency evacuation. Out both doors, to the left, to the right. We could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all. Okay, first on the agenda tonight. The acoustics are very bad in here. We're gonna have to keep quiet as much as possible, please. First on the agenda tonight, we have a BY 2021 Community Development Block Grant Rolling Application. It is a public hearing. Coventry Housing Authority, North Road Terrace, exterior improvements, 30 Mulhern Drive, 4 residential roofs, 1 community hall roof, and siding on 8 residential, 1 community building benefiting 96 public housing units at the cost of $551,650. Is there anybody here representing the applicant? Come on up. Name and address, please.
Julie Letty, 14 Manchester Circle, Coventry, Rhode Island. The Executive Director of Coventry Housing Authority.
Okay, would you just like to give a brief?
Certainly. We have housing, 8 residential buildings on Mulhern Drive that are nearing 40 years old. 4 of the buildings are 40 years old. 2 of the buildings are 38 years old. We're in the process of preserving the units through the modernization grants we received from HUD, but those have been limited over the past years. And the CDBG program allows us to obtain funds, grant resources to perform the work. So we need to replace the roofs and the siding on the buildings.
Thank you. Anybody on the board have any questions?
I do, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Anderson.
Hey, Miss Letty,
Hello?
thank you for coming. How often, this is wonderful, all right, this
This
HUD
is a
money.
fabulous program. I call this my free money.
Right,
I
and-
love free.
and is it a lottery? How often does this come around?
So the CDBG program is twofold. For affordable housing and preservation or creation of affordable housing, you can apply all year long, except the one time of year that the municipalities are eligible to apply. So municipalities are eligible to apply for a X amount of dollars each year for other projects within the town. But the Housing Authority can apply year round, except during that period.
So we're basically rotating our funds with the Manchester Circle. That's the oldest one. It looks.
That
really-
is, and that is all done.
Right, I see
That
it
took us
often.
4 years to do
Right,
with our funds.
Right.
Now I can get it wiped out all at once. Well, not wiped out, preserved.
right. And then this, with this, is this like a bid process for this? Or is it-
Yes, I have to do a public bid,
Okay, and then I saw it was like 10%, well, they go like 10% contingency.
correct?
So on like, a $10,000 project, $1,000, you'd be an eye opener. So you got 10, what is $14,000 contingency or how much?
Right.
$47,000.
47,000, I believe.
Right. What happens to that if what if we don't need the contingency? You guys get to spend it somewhere else or it goes in a,
No, that's a whole nother process and I'd
Yeah.
have to come back here to get permission to use it in a different manner. And then the town would have to submit that to the state to see if they would approve that manner, or we just give the money back.
No, we ain't giving it back.
I have plenty of projects
Okay,
that need
good
work.
deal. Yeah, thanks so much.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions before I open up public hearing? Have a motion to open up public hearing?
I'll make a motion to open up public hearing.
Have a motion by Mr. Clooney, have a second by Mr. Kenny. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, public hearing is now open. If anybody here would like to come up and speak on this project in front of us for the Community Housing Authority? Anybody in the room would like to speak on this? Seeing none. Anybody on Zoom, Cody? Any hands up on Zoom? Okay, anybody before I close public hearing? Okay, I'll make a motion to close public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close public
Motion
hearing.
by Mr. Kenny, second
Second,
by Mrs. Elderkin. All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Okay, public hearing is now closed. If there's no other questions for Mrs. Letty, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make one of two motions. The first one being, I'd like to make a finding to certify that the activities contained in this request are consistent with the town's comprehensive community plan and local development ordinances and regulations.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Kenny. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I'd also like to make a favorable recommendation to the town council to authorize the town manager to file an application for the CDBG grant.
Okay, recommendation to town council for CDB application. That is a motion by Mr. Clooney, and I have a second.
Second,
Second by Mrs. Elderkin. Any discussion on this? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next, number 7, we have new business for discussion and or action. Public informational meeting, comprehensive permit master plan, Coventry Crossings, mixed-use development, owner, John Cazella and William Eccleston. In a trust, E.T. Al and Elaine Eccleston, revocable trust. Applicant Craig New Homes LLC, Craig Management, CO Jonathan Kent. It's a proposed mixed-use community consisting of 69 single-family homes, 84 multifamily condominium units, which 25% are deemed affordable, and additional commercial uses. AP 10 Lot 29 and AP 18 Lot 86, Zone GP1 Special District, and R20 Hockney Hill Road. Anybody here representing the applicant? Name and address, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. William Landry, I'm a partner.
So before Mr. Landry straightening out his microphone, I just would like to make a few comments. Please be courteous through this process. I know there's a lot of emotion in the room. We understand that. There's a lot of things to go through. Master plan is a conceptual plan. There will be many public hearings. If in fact we get through master plan, there will be a preliminary process with several public hearings, and then there will also be a final process. So bear with us. Mr. Landry has a lengthy presentation tonight. We have 2 applications presented. And if you want to continue, Mr. Landry?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is that a little bit better? Okay,
Yes,
I'll try
thank
to
you.
speak directly into it. My name's William Landry. I'm a partner with Blish and Kavanaugh, 30 Exchange Terrace in Providence, Rhode Island. And I'm representing the applicant, Craig Management, or Craig New Homes, as well as the owner applicant, Elaine Eccleston as the trustee of the two trusts that own the subject property. I'd like, if I could, we've provided staff with a thumb drive of our project plans, and I'd like to start with an overview of what it is that we're presenting. And if we could move to sheet G1, which is the aerial, just about 2 sheets in. Very good. Thank you, sir. May not be that clear, but we'll do the best we can. We're dealing with a 30.3 acre site at the northwest corner of the intersection of Nooseneck Hill Road, Harkney Hill Road, near Hill Farm Road. It's this property described by some as the cornfield. It's framed on the west side by Hill Farm Road. It actually consists of 2 separate lots of record. By far the largest one is a 29 acre parcel that is described as Tax Assessor's Plat 10, Lot 29. That's the majority of what we know as the cornfield. And that site has a special zoning of General Business 1 Special Planning District. Then there is a very small 1.3 acre parcel on Nooseneck Hill Road that is zoned R20. It's a residentially zoned piece of property. What we're proposing for the site is a mixed-use residential commercial planned development. If we could move to page C2 of the plan set, the overall site plan. Yeah. That's it. Thank you. What we're proposing is to combine these 2 sites into a single site and to have 3 different types of uses on the property. The majority of the developed area would be comprised, there are 153 residential lots altogether, residential units altogether. They are comprised of a single family portion that I'm circling now in red. And there are 69 single family freestanding condominium units. The plan for this site is to have each of the 3 development areas, the single family area, the multifamily area, and the commercial area, stand on their own as separate land condominium units on which there will be subunits that consist of the residences themselves. In the case of parcel A, the parcel for the single family homes, there are 69 2-bedroom single family homes. 25% of those would be deed restricted for households earning 120% or less of area median income. The second land condominium unit, the multifamily unit, would consist of 7 buildings that contain a total of 84 multifamily apartment units. And similarly, 25% of those units would be deed restricted for affordable housing, not at 120% maximum area median income, but 80% or less of area median income. That's a requirement of Rhode Island Housing for rental housing, which is what these units will be. Of those 84 units, 70 will be two-bedroom apartments, and 18 will be affordable. 18 of those 70 will be the affordable units to households earning 80% of area median income or less. Then there'll be 14 single bedroom, one bedroom units. And 4 of those, a little over 25%, will be deed restricted for families of low or moderate income housing. When we first presented this plan at the pre-application stage, there were 168 or so units that were proposed. That amount has been reduced to create additional buffering from our immediate neighbors to the northwest. And we'll describe that in a little bit shortly. The third area of the site, over mostly all of which I think is on Nooseneck Hill Road, is the proposed commercial area. And there are 2 alternative commercial uses proposed for this site. That alternative will be resolved at some point as part of this master plan conceptual approval process. The alternative one is for an indoor and outdoor sports complex. The indoor component here would be a building comprising of almost 68,000 square feet. And we're talking primarily soccer activities, but not only soccer activities. There are a lot of other types of sports activities that you'll hear about that'll be available to the public in this building. There's also 182 parking spaces associated with that building, and that will stand on its own recreational / sports facility land condominium unit. There's an alternative to this plan that we'll show you in a moment. Actually, if we could go to page C20A, it's quite a ways down in this set. It was submitted as an alternative commercial proposal. I think it's beyond, there you go. Should be part of that set. Instead of, yes, we could go down a little bit to catch the plan itself. Just eliminate. Nope, I think we skipped too far back. We're trying to find page C20A. We had it just a moment ago. It's toward the end of the plan set. I think we got to go in the other direction. Yep, that's it. There we go. Perfect. This is the area I was just describing that had the indoor and the outdoor sports facility. The alternative proposal is to have in that area three retail buildings, three retail pad sites for commercial retail, each of which is about 12,500 square feet. And there are 191, it's hard to see them, but there are 191 parking spaces associated with that alternative proposal. If the alternative proposal ends up being the proposal that is preferred by the board here, we are proposing another 11 freestanding single-family dwellings, so that the whole the full number of single-family dwellings would jump from 153 to 164. Those would be two-bedroom, single-family homes. There would be no change in the number of multifamily units. That would stay at 84. So if we could go back to the site plan again, page C2, as part of the original full set. I just want to point out that at the adjoining residential community to the northwest here, our pre-application submission showed a 40-foot no-cut buffer there that we were proposing as a good transition from the new development, which is single-family, highly compatible use to what's existing in the neighborhood. But we have increased that based on discussions with the immediate neighbors to a 40-foot no-cut buffer and at least another 20-foot setback before any of our buildings is encountered. So it has the effect of a 60-foot setback from the property lines of the adjoining development. Now, that's quite a bit more than that till you get to the houses, and there's a lot of vegetation growing in the backyards of these houses here, but that's a 60-foot buffer, and we eliminated a number of units to be able to expand that buffer in response to the concerns from some of the neighbors over there. Now, I know the board probably knows this, but I'm going to speak for a minute about the Low and Moderate Income Housing Act for the benefit of people from the public. We're really not talking about low-income housing here. Low-income housing, unfortunately, is rarely feasible without government financial subsidies, tax credits, other devices that are usually only available for low-income housing. This is really moderate income housing for people who can qualify for mortgages. In this community, it may be close to $90,000 a year household income. These are people that work. These are people who do have to get a mortgage, and these are people who will maintain their properties, but who, because of the current trends in housing and costs, really are impaired from being able to afford a single-family home or an apartment without this type of program. As I mentioned, people at 120% or more can qualify to buy the single-family homes. People at 80% or less, and 20% or less, I meant to say, people at 80% or less can qualify for the apartments. We're proceeding under the state's Low and Moderate Income Housing Act, which was an emergency measure that was first passed in the 90s amended substantially in 2004. And it was done to try to correct an urgent situation then that has only become worse since the act was enacted, a situation where there was a dramatic shortage of affordable dwellings, particularly outside of the big city areas. The municipalities where there's more land, the principal impediment to that, by all accounts, even the municipalities, and even this town in its comprehensive plan, is zoning provisions that require larger lots and really preclude higher density housing that can be developed and sold on a more efficient basis and make it possible for more people to participate. And the idea is that the developer gets a density bonus above and beyond what the normal density would be for the property. And the price for that is that 25% of the units are built and paid for by the developer and deed restricted only to persons of moderate income. It's basically a break even or less proposition for the developer to build those units and their corresponding share of the infrastructure for the project. But there's no municipal financial subsidy here. There's no government money that's assured or even likely for for-profit developers these days for these types of projects, other than perhaps some very minimal sums. It's basically the developer and the density bonus that is financing the creation of those units. The act is the ultimate goal of the act is to get every municipality in Rhode Island to have at least 10% of their housing stock deed restricted to housing that's affordable for families of low or moderate income. If the amendments to the act in 2004 changed the way that this works for municipalities and for applicants. For one thing, private developers were able to participate in the process, but the towns were also given the opportunity to try to control the scope of applications under the act by developing their own local affordable housing plans and getting them approved by the state. A town with an approved affordable housing plan that's part of its comprehensive plan was able to identify particular sites and restrict the ways in which the housing, the affordable housing could be developed under the act. However, if a town does not have an approved affordable housing plan, there's a lower bar for applicants proceeding before the planning boards in those municipalities. And that happens to be the case for the town of Coventry. The town of Coventry did adopt an affordable housing plan in or about 2004, 2005. That was approved locally, but it failed to garner the approval of the state. So as of now, the town does not have an approved affordable housing plan. The standard applicable to municipalities under the act for approval or denial for towns that don't have approved affordable housing plans is whether the application is reasonable and consistent with local affordable housing needs. Now, I do want to address the issue of need in Coventry in particular, and I want to focus on how the town itself in its comprehensive plan has identified its own needs for affordable housing. Currently, the town is at 5.3% of its housing stock consisting of deed-restricted affordable housing. The town has 749 affordable homes and requires an additional 661 in order to meet the 10% minimum standard. That 10% is really a lot less than what the town's real affordable housing needs are, as identified in the town's affordable housing plan. It states there that 4,000, not 661, but 4,049 Coventry households are cost burdened, meaning that they spend 30% or more of their household income on housing alone. And the other issue that exists, and nobody's pointing fingers here, we're just stating facts as they appear in the town's own documents, but only 30%, 37% of the existing affordable housing stock in the town involves housing for families. 63 is dedicated to elderly, and 58% of the existing affordable housing stock actually consists of beds in assisted living and nursing homes. That accounts for the majority of the affordable housing in the town, and 5% of it consists of housing for special persons with special needs. When the town did adopt its locally approved but not state approved affordable housing plan at the time of the 2004 amendments, that plan provided that within 20 years or by 2024, next year, the town under that plan would create an additional 860 affordable dwellings at an average pace of about 43 units a year for those 20 years. What's actually happened, and again, no fingers pointed, because I'm sure nobody at the table on the board had anything to do with this, but what's happened is that over those 20 years, the town only actually created an additional 91 affordable housing units. And over the last 2 years, prior to this application being filed, the town actually went backwards by 10 units. They were at 5.39% and went down to 5.32%. So the town's affordable housing plan also recognized that local zoning was a major barrier to affordable housing production and needed to be changed. And the plan included several strategies for the production of additional affordable housing, including identifying potential suitable locations for higher density housing and upzoning tracts that are currently commercially zoned. That is, looking at current commercially zoned property and devoting it to residential use or residential/commercial mixed use. And that's why this property presents itself so well as a candidate under the Low and Moderate Income Housing Act. It's actually been identified in the comprehensive plan as a site that would be suitable for mixed use, residential and commercial use. It has a good road infrastructure, water, public water is available, public sewer is accessible. from the site, making it a prime location for higher density housing. I'm not saying that. The comprehensive plan and the zoning ordinance says that with respect to parcels that are zoned like this, and this particular parcel, the cornfield in particular. The zoning ordinance already provided a mechanism in the zoning ordinance to permit residential land development projects, special planned unit developments on commercial sites where infrastructure is available. So that's been there even without the comprehensive plan. And then the comprehensive plan identified this particular site as a special planning district, which it defined as a flexible land use category for a mixture of residential and commercial uses, a gateway property. The plan provides that multifamily residential use would be part of the mixed use. It says it will be allowed, not may be allowed, but will be allowed is the language of the comprehensive plan at densities ranging up to 20 dwelling units per acre. Now, before an applicant is allowed to proceed with an application for a comprehensive permit, it's necessary for the application to be vetted by Rhode Island Housing. Rhode Island Housing looks at the project plan, they look at the project financials, they look at the proposed number of affordable units, they look at they provide the maximum prices that could be charged for those units, at least at the time the letter of eligibility is issued. They determine whether the applicant has done an adequate job integrating the affordable units throughout the development, which is something that we're proposing here to have 25% of every unit type, not just putting them all in one area and having the affordables dispersed so that no one's going to know from the exterior which units are affordable and which units are not, thereby eliminating any type of stigma in that regard, which is one of the features that Rhode Island Housing looks for, and that's actually required by the act, that there be a good integration of units throughout the development. Rhode Island Housing issued an approval, issued a letter of eligibility for this project to proceed under the act in April of this year. Rhode Island Housing also agreed to serve as the monitoring agent for this project as the units are built. A monitoring agent has to make sure that the developer delivers in actual development what the developer has promised, that the affordable units are integrated, that they're sold at a reasonable pace in relation to the market rate units, that you don't end up with a high percentage of market rate units built without the affordable units also being put online at the same time, that they're appropriately integrated, and that the incomes of the applicants for these homes, which are in many cases town employees, teachers, all kinds of people qualify for the affordable units. But the monitoring agent looks at tax returns and income statements and so forth and certifies that the applicants are qualified to purchase the units, that the appropriate deed restrictions are being recorded, and that the purchase prices and rental rates that are being charged are no greater than what's required by the act. And by way of an example of what an advantage it is for someone to be able to buy one of these units, the 2-bedroom freestanding single-family homes at 120 for a household that earns 120% of the local area median income The maximum price for that home, back when we filed in April, was $244,000. A brand new freestanding two-bedroom, two-bath home at $244,000. That number is probably a little lower right now, given the increase in interest rates from April until now. It's a moving target. You could calculate it every day on the calculator on the Rhode Island Housing site, and you'd come up with a slightly different number. The one that's going to matter is whatever that calculation produces when the buildings are actually built. If interest rates are even higher than they are right now, those purchase prices will be lower for the affordable units. If interest rates are lower, it may be that those purchase prices are higher. But by the same token, the purchase prices of the sale prices of the market rate units will correspondingly also likely be higher. Now, I want to cover a couple of issues that are more technical in nature and are part of our submissions. We are required to submit a will serve letter from Kent County Water Authority. We did that. We provided that letter back in February. It was actually issued on February 15th. It was included in our submission in April. And I know the board knows this. Some members of the public may not. Kent County Water Authority doesn't readily or casually issue these letters. This one is 7 pages long and describes a detailed hydraulic analysis that Kent County Water Authority performed for this project design. Working with the engineers to determine the actual flow that would be required for each of these units, each of these types of units. And Kent County Water has certain standards based on DEM regulations on how much water you have to assume is going to be required for each unit. And that hydraulic modeling analysis, which they have for their whole system, can determine whether they have the capacity and the pounds per square inch pressure, where they have the volume and the pressure to be able to deliver to the development. And this one passed with flying colors, with the water availability and pressure per square inch dramatically above what is required for the domestic water service to the units and what is required for the fire flow gallonage and pressure for the unit. So that letter has been provided. We've also provided copies of applications that we have made for a sewer connection. There is an existing private sewer line in Leisure Drive, which is somewhere over here. That may be it right there. It's up in this area. There's a private drive to that Leisure Drive development. That's owned by entities associated with Mr. Assalone. We've reached agreement with Mr. Assalone to have a connection to a manhole somewhere around here on Leisure Drive, and for that sewer capacity to be utilized for our project. Garofalo Engineering, Mr. Sam Hemingway is here tonight. He's going to address that a little bit. He's done the calculations they've done indicate that there's sufficient pressure there. We do know that the sewer commission, which is involved along with the town council in approving these permits, has had that application since November. They've reached out to Mr. Assalone to confirm that he is willing to do this. We've actually negotiated the terms of that agreement with Mr. Assalone, and we're working with the Sewer Commission, and we'll be continuing to work with them as this process proceeds toward and probably through the preliminary plan stage of development, when water systems and sewer systems are actually engineered and reviewed by the town's engineers. At this point, I would ask that Sam Hemingway be sworn. I've got a couple of questions for him about technical issues associated with the site. He'll say a little bit about his background, and I would propose to share with him one of these extra microphones.
Name and address, please.
Better? My name is Sam Hemingway. I'm an engineer with the firm of Garofalo and Associates. My name is Sam Hemingway. I'm a professional engineer with the firm of Garofalo and Associates, doing business out of Providence, Rhode Island.
Mr. Hemingway, could you just describe your professional background and your experience as an engineer with projects of this sort, substantial residential and or commercial projects?
Yes, I've been a registered engineer in the state of Rhode Island for roughly 30 years. For that entire time, doing projects similar to this, land development and site engineering projects, and versed in both state regulations regarding permitting as well as the design of the sites themselves.
If you could speak up, please.
And have you worked on occasion in the town of Coventry specifically on these types of projects?
I have done a number of projects in the town of Coventry. Yes.
And you're familiar with the processes before the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management and the stormwater regulations that are required, wetlands regulations?
Certainly, I've done tens or more likely hundreds of permits through the state, both for drainage as well as wetlands and OWTS system. I'll try and slow down and do that.
Speak right.
Heather, you want him to repeat that? Could you, Mr. Landry, could you just ask that question again to him?
Sure. Could you just describe the nature of your experience in dealing with state approval agencies, the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management in particular?
Certainly, I've been the engineer in charge of numerous engineering projects in the state of Rhode Island, including stormwater management permitting, wetlands permitting, and septic system design.
I want to address a little bit in relation to the site plan. I have this pointer as well. Three issues. If you could just describe, what your approach was to these issues and the extent to which they're really pertinent to the site. And so that our staff person can be aware, we're going to be looking at the utilities plan, which is C3, the drainage plans, which are C3.1 and 3.2. Mr. Hemingway, I think we've got the utility plan up there. Could you just describe for the board and the public what the master plan concept is for the placement and circulation of utilities on the site?
Certainly, I will speak primarily to water and sewer, as well as drainage. There are also underground electric and telephone, but that design comes significantly farther. So, as you described earlier, the site will be served by public water through the Kent County Water Authority. The application proposes to have a single service connection in Hartney Hill Road. Seeing this, not seem to be working, but
Excuse me, could we try another mic, Cody? We can't hear up here at all.
That mic does work well. I would just share it. I would share it.
I apologize to the public. We had it in this room because we knew there'd be a lot of attendance. The next one will probably be at the high school because we're gonna need air conditioning, I think. I didn't do it for applause. We're sweating up here too, so bear with us, please.
oh, there it is. I got you. So the public water will be connected at a single location in Hartney Hill Road,
Much better.
effectively at the same location as the entrance road off of that property. The water lines will be extended through the property, providing both fire protection and domestic service to all the structures on the site. Each individual home will be provided with an individual meter. Pressures at those houses are, as was stated earlier, are significantly higher than state minimums would require. There's good pressure in the area as well as good capacity. We similarly have asked Kent County Water to provide information related to fire flow protection and the space. Although the spacing of the hydrants will continue to be worked out, we have identified them at roughly 600 feet, which is the fire code requirement, and we will continue to site those hydrants throughout the property to make sure that the fire marshal is satisfied that there's protection, full protection for the development in its final configuration.
Could you just point out the two access locations? There's an, as I see and understand, there's a northern access point. There we go. The northern access point in the area of the proposed soccer facility or retail facility on Nooseneck Hill Road. And then the second access point is over to the west at Hartney Hill Road. There was some, as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, some deliberate planning effort to try to not have one of those exits or entrances monopolized by any particular use here, and to have logical reasons for going both ways in and out of this development, correct?
That is correct. In fact, the application, when we first came in front of this board at the pre-application stage, the project actually had a single entrance proposed. Through discussions with this board, as well as coordination with the traffic engineer, who has done significantly more review than I have personally. But we came up with a configuration that effectively splits the entrances, both with regard to use and with regard to location on the property. And then, but also provides internal road networks that provide safe and egress between the two to minimize the impacts.
And in terms of wetlands, can you just briefly describe what, if anything, we've got here in terms of delineated wetlands and what buffers would be required to be observed?
Certainly, there's a single wetlands that we believe existing on the property that is actually a man-made wetland. So it's a lined pond in the wooded areas that was relocated on the property roughly 20 years ago or something along those lines. So that the limits of that facility are well known and identified. Again, it's a lined pond, so it has not changed much since the installation. There are some other drainage features on the site as well. which certainly carry vegetation and surface water collection. Those facilities are located at the north end of the property. But those are not regulated at the state. We do intend on maintaining those and constructing similar facilities in accordance with state requirements. But those are the extent of the freshwater wetlands that we believe exist. They were flagged on this property by a qualified biologist. They have not been submitted to the state yet and certainly won't be finalized until that occurs.
Okay, and do I understand correctly that once there's a submission to DEM at the preliminary plan stage, there'll be a verification process by DEM for those wetland edges and associated buffers? And at some point, a letter of insignificant alteration will or will not be issued, but that's something that happens at the preliminary plan stage of review, correct? And that,
Yes, that is correct.
and that in comprehensive permit applications, unlike the usual applications that the planning board receives, the evidence of state permits from DEM is actually something that's required to be produced at the final plan stage of review as opposed to the preliminary plan stage, correct?
That's correct as well.
Now, let's talk about, in closing here, stormwater and conceptual drainage program. And I'll ask our staffer member to work from sheet C-3.1 and then 3.2, the two sheets that have to do with drainage. Could you tell us how the project design came together in terms of stormwater management patterns and the concept design that has been achieved for purposes of master planning this project?
So the existing grades on this property generally fall from the southwest to northeast. So lower left to upper right on the plan as it's on screen. Generally speaking, groundwater depths are pretty significant on the western portions of the property and much shallower on the eastern portions. What we have proposed to do is identify a number of areas. There are actually 4 different areas on the site that we are proposing to distribute surface runoff from the developed portions of the property. So each of those facilities will carry primarily an infiltration component to mitigate runoff. The primary advantage to that is it treats both quality and quantity of runoff as highly suitable to the soils conditions that we've identified on the property. So we have done numerous test holes on this property to identify the specific conditions on the site and have done initial grading that the contours are indicated on this plan that ensure that runoff can be collected and directed to areas and still provide separation and mitigation in accordance with the state standards.
Could you describe for us those state standards in terms of what the stormwater performance is going to be required to be? I see there are 2 proposed detention areas on the site outlined here. They've been sized, obviously, in a conceptual way, but by the time that design is engineered and approved by DEM, what's the standard that they're going to follow in terms of the pre-development conditions of this site and the post-development conditions?
So there are 2 primary standards that are addressed in all applications. First and foremost, there's no increase in either rate or total volume of runoff leaving the property. So at the completion of the project, the runoff conditions will not be increased from the conditions that currently exist. The second standard relates primarily to quality of runoff. So discharge from properties, including discharge into the groundwater on the property, is similarly regulated by the state. And there are very specific standards related to treating those discharges before they're released. Again, That process of review occurs at the state permitting level. In this case, it'll go in under the umbrella of a wetlands permit, but is effectively a separate department from at the DEM, which regulates both surface runoff drainage rates and also erosion control and sediment loading.
That will result in a water quality certificate or approval to that effect. If we could just take a quick look at C-3.2, it's really the rest of the site showing drainage features that well, maybe they don't show it. Yeah, it's additional. There's one additional management area, correct?
There's actually three. They're a little difficult to see. So there's one to the southeast of the soccer field here. I don't know if you can see my light. There's one along the road, a large facility along the road, and then primarily a water quality structure at the very top of that page as shown.
Same conditions apply. These were sized, designed based on your experience in DEM permitting. And I'll ask you whether you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of certainty within your profession as to whether this concept design would have any type of feasibility issues as it navigates the DEM process based on your experience.
Certainly. So we have done what we believe is an appropriate amount of investigation for the level of design that's proposed in front of you. The intent of that is to try and ferret out issues and standards at this stage and address them on the plan. So to the extent that you know, the purpose of developing this plan at this stage is exactly that, to try and identify the requirements and do a suitable amount of engineering that quantifies those specific standards to ensure that as the project moves on, that we'll be meeting the standard.
That applies to the wetlands aspect and the stormwater management aspect and the water quality aspects as you described, correct? Okay, I don't believe I have any further questions, Mr. Hemingway. Thank you. Unless there are questions by the board.
Why don't you continue with your presentation, and then the board will ask individual questions to your professionals.
I'd like to call briefly John Kent. Mr. Kent, we're going to share this mic, but I'd like you to just introduce yourself to the board. Give the board a sense of what type of developer they're dealing with, experience level, familiarity with this size and scope of project, the nature of your company, other significant projects that you've undertaken, things of that sort.
Mr. Kent, name and address, please.
It's Jonathan Kent.
Louder.
It's Jonathan Kent, 39 New Snack Hill Road, West Greenwich.
Thank you.
So the company's been developing real estate for about 40 years. I've been doing it for almost 20. It's basically just in the past 10 years, we've developed close to 750 homes and condos throughout Rhode Island and Massachusetts. Most recently, we finished 29 units in the Highlands at Hopkins Hill, which is in Coventry. Then prior to that, we built Cedar Ridge, which was 116 units. And then we added on to 24 more units off of that. And then we've done about 24 other projects in Rhode Island and Mass. But those are the two most local. So if people are curious about what this would look like in its final form, those two other projects are they're very close on what this will look like for the residential portion. We've also done commercial facilities in Rhode Island, in Johnston, Rhode Island, in other areas. So this project, as large and complex as it is not something that we're not able to handle.
Thanks. And Mr. Kent, where is your office located in relation to the project site?
It's about 1 mile to the south of here. It's on New Snack Hill Road, on the same road that the site is.
While this project has been percolating and after it was presented, have you taken the time to try to reach out to and be receptive to overtures by the budding property owners about their concerns associated with the project?
Yep, in total, we've had approximately 4 meetings. At the pre-app, I did offer basically an open office to anybody that wanted to come. A couple of people did approach me outside the pre-app who never ended up calling me, but there was a group I met with at least 2 times, and then another individual we met just one-on-one, but we have met with the people that were willing to meet to discuss the concerns. They were primarily the abutters, the direct abutters. And I think, we made some progress. They obviously still have their own concerns, but we've tried to do what we can within reason to help accommodate some of the concerns. Those conversations are ongoing, but we have met multiple times.
Do I understand correctly that as the project was initially being designed, you anticipated and planned for a suitable buffering of this proposal with respect to that residential directly abutting area, and provided for certain buffering there, which has since been enhanced in the proposal that's before the board tonight, correct?
Yeah, the buffer now, as it stands, like you said earlier, it's 40-foot no-cut buffer zone. Then the units were moved back to 60 feet. The commercial building originally was approximately 60 feet off of the abutters on the top, on the northern portion. That's now been moved to 145 feet based on some of that commentary. And we also moved the parking. We actually reduced the building down by about 7,000 square feet to help accommodate that distance. So in all respects, we've tried to significantly improve the buffering from all the direct abutters.
Thank you. That's all I have of Mr. Kent right now. I just have one other thing, Mr. Chair, and I will tell you that this is not my area of expertise, but I do want to spend a few moments on the traffic issue. Our traffic consultant was required to testify somewhere else tonight, had a conflict. We discussed the matter with staff, and it appears that the next meeting of this board, whenever that ends up being scheduled, will likely be heavily devoted to the issue of traffic. It appears that by that time, the town will likely have engaged its own traffic peer review consultant. In the normal course, the 2 experts would be speaking with each other, and we know this is an important issue and an issue that people are concerned about. So we're almost happy that the work product will be percolating a little better than it is right now, and you'll have 2 sets of input to compare that will have the benefit of some back and forth between the peer reviewer and our expert. We did submit a report from the Beta Group, Paul Bannon, a veteran traffic consultant here in Rhode Island, very familiar with large projects. I'm sure you've seen him or someone from his firm before. I just want to take 2 minutes to summarize the conclusions in his report, just so that they're stated and we don't have people walking away tonight that haven't heard anything about traffic at all, when perhaps they came here with it being the foremost thing on their minds. Mr. Bannon did what veteran traffic engineers do. They take a look at existing traffic volumes. They test existing traffic volumes with counters. They look at the project plan. They develop an estimate of number of trips, new trips, traffic trips to and from the site that will be created by the development that's being proposed. And they look at the times of day at which those trips are likely to be generated. And to do that, there's not a lot of guesswork. There's a uniform trip generation manual that the Department of Transportation in the state of Rhode Island, virtually all, that's an association of transportation safety officials across the country that have these databases that produce trip generation results for different areas, for all different kinds of uses, single-family condo, multifamily apartment, every variety of commercial or institutional use imaginable. And that trip generation manual is sort of the Bible of how many trips can reasonably be expected to be generated from what's proposed. So that was done along with a safety analysis that looked at crash data, tried to identify any dangerous spots. There was an examination of sight distances, safe sight distances, and safe stopping distances at the important intersections and the proposed intersections, and obviously the impacts on the major intersections in the area, including Harkney Hill Road and Nooseneck Hill Road intersection, and also the credit union that's there, which is an important generator of traffic in the immediate area. And what they did in their report was to identify the peak times for traffic in the morning and in the evening each day, and to identify the peak hour. And then they measured their estimated number of trips against the peak hour. And the idea with these traffic studies is that if you can make the traffic work, if your traffic will work at the peak hour of the day, it's going to work at the non-peak hours of the day. So you try to simulate worst conditions during the day and test that against your trip generation data. And I'll quote from the report saying the results of the operational analysis determined that the estimated increase in traffic during peak periods resulting from the proposed mixed-use development will have a minor impact on overall traffic operations.
Excuse me, please be respectful.
Will have a minor impact on overall traffic operations along Nooseneck Hill Road and Harkney Hill Road and Hill Farm Road in the project area. And that they don't just do conclusory statements like that. They actually calculate, and the peer reviewer will scrutinize what the level of service of various intersections will be with a fully built development here compared to current conditions where there's no traffic coming on and off the site. And those levels of service are ranked like from A to E, but it's not like in school. And you'll hear this more from the traffic experts, and it's in the report. But a D or an E is not a bad grade. It's actually a good grade for traffic analyses because it's not an A, B, C, D fail situation. Even a D or an E is an acceptable level of service for certain types of intersections in towns and municipalities. So the conclusion was that at Nooseneck Hill, the intersection, Harkney Hill, the intersection, and the Ocean State Credit Union intersections, the current levels of service for those intersections without this development are between A and C, all very good levels of service, both in the morning and in the afternoon. There's nothing worse than a C, and there's a lot of A's and B's. The future 2028 projection for this area without this development in 2028 is also for there to be A to C rankings at all of the intersections except the Hill Farm Road, Hockney Hill Road intersection, which will go from a B, from a C rather, to a D. And there'll actually be 7 seconds added to the delay, the normal delay time associated with the development. And I'll tell you that if we start right now, that's 7 seconds. That'll be the difference with the no build conditions in the delay. The number of seconds, the wait times, the calculated wait time. I know people are laughing, but they can read the report for themselves. They'll hear it from the traffic experts. There's statistical information on what the wait time is at all of these intersections. Now, there's an appendices. It's about 2 inches thick with all of this empirical data that will be reviewed and cross-checked. The 2028 at full build-out with this development, all of those intersections will again be from A to C. And again, the Hill Farm Road, Hockney Hill Road intersection will still be a D, not any worse than the future expected traffic conditions without this development. And the delay time will be 9 seconds instead of 7 seconds, 2 more seconds than what we just did. So the point is that I know it's easy for people to imagine what traffic impacts will be. Fortunately, traffic is a science. There are technical experts who can empirically determine and usually don't have huge disagreements because they're all looking at the same data and the same resource material. So I wanted to put that out. I know it wouldn't be popular, but I thought it would be useful to just state it and to invite people to look at that report and scrutinize it and become very familiar with it so that we can have a fruitful discussion once the town's expert has a chance to weigh in as well. And that's all I have for right now, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, if I can just say, to repeat, we're having a peer review from the town for our own traffic study. We will be having a meeting on Wednesday, August 9th. We do not know the location yet, but you will not get noticed. Wednesday, August 9th. We're trying to have this on its own night, and this board is working extra nights to do that. We're taking this very seriously. Mr. Landry does not have his traffic expert tonight, so he will have an incomplete presentation. So the board will ask questions and we'll see what the time is, but we're probably going to continue to that night because there's no sense of opening up a public hearing on an incomplete presentation. And I don't want to see anybody pass out in here tonight either. So bear with us. The board will ask the applicant questions now. Thank you.
I may, I just had one more thing I almost overlooked. We do have a representative of the soccer, the sports facility here tonight. I know people have asked us questions about what's going to go on in that building and what the timeframes are and so forth. And we're going to keep it very, very short. But I would like Mr. Scott Cannon to speak to that, the issue of what kind of operation it's going to be, what his experience is, what the parking is that's usually associated with what's going on in that building and the field. He's traveled 6 hours today, got a flight canceled yesterday, just arrived a few minutes before the meeting started, and we do have an opportunity for him to be able to speak.
Sure, no rush. Have him come up, please.
Thank you.
Heather, how you doing?
Name and address, please.
Scott Cannon, 87 Shaw Avenue, Cranston. Scott, yeah, Cannon. And as Mr. Bill Landry said, I been traveling all day today, and unfortunately, the airplane didn't have Wi-Fi, so I wasn't able to print out. So that's why I'm using the computer here. So I just wanted to address our plan for the sports complex in there. And I know people in the community have questions of what benefit it would be to the community. So I just wanted to go through some of them. This microphone's tricky. Immediate benefits to the community would be construction jobs, local. We plan on hiring local people whenever possible. In the two plans they have, one is for multiple commercial buildings and then the parking lot. We've heard feedback from the community that this is thought of as the gateway to Coventry and what do people want to see as they come into the community. I believe this plan that you're looking at there, as people drive in, you'll see an open space field, hopefully with kids playing soccer and lacrosse and different things. And I think, as you come into a community, you see kids playing and competing and having fun. I think that's a good first look for a community, in my opinion. There'll be opportunity for a lot of tax revenue for the city, not just for our, commercial taxes we'll be paying, but also we have the main tenant of our facility will be a soccer club that has 750 members, and 60 of those are Coventry residents, and the others are from surrounding cities, Warwick, West Warwick, East Greenwich, North Kingstown, West Greenwich, all over Rhode Island. So they'll be coming into the city, not to go to a specific store, but everybody knows as you drop your kid off to play sports, you go to the grocery store, maybe the lumber store, all kinds of different things that they do. So it's an opportunity for the city to really benefit from revenue coming into the local businesses, which I'm sure they'll be happy about. At the moment, there is no indoor and outdoor sports facility quite like this in the state. The proposal is to have a full-size outdoor field, which means 110 yards by 70 yards with turf and lights. And then the indoor field is about a half of that. So it's a field and a half. Inside the building, we plan on having other opportunities for our members and renters, but also just the community at large. We plan on having a fitness center that would be open to the public for use through membership classes. We also plan on having a physical therapy office that members of the community could use as well. We also plan on having a classroom in there with stadium seating and a big whiteboard that you can do video analysis and things like that. We like to work on goal setting, leadership, things like that. We plan on reaching out to the community and seeing about doing leadership groups, athletes or non-athletes in the area. One of the coaches we have on staff is really, really talented at that stuff and enjoys doing it. He's a very successful business person himself, so he likes giving back to the community that way. As far as our schedule goes, what you can expect, at about 4:30 or 5, we'll have a group of people coming in to rent. Our players will come in and practice. And then that would turn over at 6 o'clock, 5:30, the next group would be coming in, about 6:15, the other group. So probably about 45 minutes of people coming in and out. And then the same thing would happen 6 to 9. Then we would finish. Sorry? PM, yeah. Yeah, sorry, that was Monday through Friday.
Excuse me, public hearing's not open.
Yeah. And then after that, we would plan on having all activities outdoors over, so the lights would be out. And then indoor, you know, we would potentially go to 10, 11 o'clock with adult leagues. So that would be the extent of that. The fitness center and physical therapy in the classroom would be available for use during the day as well. But that obviously wouldn't be as much traffic as the actual teams coming in. On the weekends, you know, it varies. You know, the fall and spring seasons are busier than other times. So we would have games throughout the day, and you can't really give an example of what it would look like because teams are playing away games, some teams are playing home games, but you know, throughout the day we would be having games and that sort of thing. Usually on the weekends, the games, you know, finish by like 5 o'clock, something like that. You know, start at 8 or 9 and finish by 5. Another added benefit to the community is we actually do free clinics for anyone 10 years and younger. So anybody in the community would be able to come over, and we have professional coaches that are full-time soccer people. And so if anybody in the community, free signups, just come in and have fun and enjoy the game, learn some new skills and ideas about it. The traffic we talked about. I know parking was a concern. Sometimes in tournaments, you know, you can go to a facility and there's a lot of parking and issues and stuff like that. The parking requirements are meant to be 1 space for every 2 persons of total capacity required. The parking that we have here is 180 plus 8 loading spaces. So it's you know, technically 188 spots. By our maximum capacity, we believe is 300 through the indoor and outdoor, including the next round of people coming in. It's about 300. So you take half of that, you're at 150. We're actually 38 spots over the requirement. And without relying just on what zoning table 12.5 said, we currently rent a lot of facilities out throughout Rhode Island and Massachusetts. So what I did is all the facilities that we use, I just counted out all their spaces, took how many fields they have for those spaces, and then, okay, when we go there, is parking tough? Is parking easy? Is parking really, really easy? So just to give some examples, so one of the facilities we rent is Wheeler Farm. They have 68 spaces for 1 field, and it's always a struggle to get a parking spot there. NEFC in Mendon, Massachusetts has 90, and it has just enough. You can get in there, but sometimes you're waiting a little bit, stuff like that, but it's not, you don't have to go off site to park. So I fit, those are tight or not enough. No issues, never have a hard time finding a parking spot. 4 Kicks in Marlboro, Mass. They have about 100. And this is per field. Can always get a spot there. 4 Kicks Taunton has 110. NEFC Marlboro has 140. And then Wide World in North Kingstown, that I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with, has 200. And they have massive amounts of open spots every time you go there. So by that calculation, you know, we're at 145 spots, which is the very, very highest end of that. So we feel really comfortable with our parking. I know another concern, because I met with John with some of the abutters to try to, you know, work with them to be a good neighbor. We originally wanted a building that was 330 feet by 230 feet by 45 feet high. That was what we wanted. That would be best for us. But in trying to stay within the regulations for the height, for the zoning, we dropped that down to 35 feet. And then we reduced the size to 270 to 220, which is a big deal for us. It may not seem like that to other people, but for us, it's a big deal, but we're doing that to try to accommodate. The other feedback we got was that we didn't want just a big metal warehouse in the gateway. So we've agreed to spruce up the outside, kind of like the Dollar General, you do siding and stuff like that. So I actually have a couple renderings that I wasn't able to send because I haven't had Wi-Fi all day. So if you guys are interested, I could probably work with the IT guy to get it to him. I have him on my phone. But we want when people drive in there, we want it to look really nice, And we feel like once it's completed and you can see the vegetation there, you can see a big green open space with kids playing out there. And then the building looks really nice as well, once it's all done up. And the reduced size and the bigger buffers. And for all the reasons I listed before, I think it'd be a really good addition to the community. And that's all I have, unless you guys have some questions.
We're going to take a 10, 15-minute break so everybody could stretch and get some air, and then we'll come back and ask questions to the developer. Thank you. Okay, thank you, everybody. Just a little more information on our meeting on the 9th of August. We don't know where it is. It will be on our website. It will be on the agenda, and you can certainly reach out to the planning department. They will give you the updated location. We do not know it at this time. Mr. Landry? Could you come up? I'm going to open it up to the board for questions. We will not be talking about traffic tonight because we don't have any experts here. Yeah. We might talk about the traffic study, but no details. Okay, I have several questions. I'm going to open it up to any board members that have any questions for Mr. Landry at this point.
I got a couple.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Reyes.
On the-
Speak clearly in the microphone.
Say that again? Oh, clear, okay. On the water density, I'd like to have Sam come up and talk about this.
Mr. Reyes, just speak up a little bit louder, please.
On the water density in the area, they want to put cellars in. What do you think about putting cellars in or slabs?
There are portions of the site that, there are portions of the site where basements may be feasible, primarily in the southwest. There are other portions of the site where we would not recommend it at all.
Yeah, because digging down into that, the water density, that's a high water area. I know what you're saying, north, south and all like that, but I think the closest to the street is maybe the best, and that is still full of water too. So when you get the water density from DEM, that's when we should talk about it really, because that's one thing we don't have here again,
We did in fact do a series of test holes on the property that were witnessed by the state. So we feel like we have a good understanding of the conditions. They were soil evaluations done by a qualified class 4 soil evaluator. They certainly get as shallow as about 2 feet on that, again, on the northeast end, but are much deeper on the south.
Now, on the 2 retention ponds, you got 2 retention ponds. Do you think that's gonna be enough?
Certainly, our calculations indicate that there's enough storage that we provided on that site. There are, I think, 5 ponds that we envision right now.
Well, I'm just worried about the homes that are already there that's flooding now. All right, so they're flooding now. You build right up behind them, the water's gonna go somewhere and it's gonna go right back into their basements. So instead of just a buffer, there should be a retention pond all the way around that complex. A retention pond all the way around, right out to the road, right out into the sewer, right across the street. That's my opinion. I do this for a living too.
We can certainly look more at it. We expect the large majority of the water right now that falls out of the sky goes into the ground. We anticipate maintaining that same condition. So we are pushing infiltration at the site as being the suitable management.
I got one more thing. With this gentleman here, I forgot your name. I'm sorry, sir. You gave us the speech about affordable housing. I've been here 3 years now. I think I'm on my 4th. And our affordable housing percentage has been staggering because you come in, we heard that speech 3 times already, for other people. We need more affordable housing to get that number up. My proposal, throw another 40 houses in there or 20 houses for affordable housing. We need, if you're gonna do it right, let's do it right. And let's get that number up to 10% where we have to be. We can come in here and just giving us a little bit of affordable housing, and I want to see more of those people coming in and living in those houses too. And I want to get that to 10%, and the town needs the 10%. So we got to work together, but we got to get more housing out of members of the public that's coming in here to push the affordable housing. We should get more housing into that.
I appreciate your concern. 25% is a requirement under the state act. There's not a requirement to do more than the 25%. unless somebody else is gonna pay for it.
Well, it's 25% the state act, but 10% the state wants us to be at. So we
Right.
went up, not even a 0.1. 0.2, oh, sorry, 0.2. That's nothing.
That's right.
It's 3 years, it's in the same spot.
Well,
So,
the-
I mean,
the-
we gotta do something to fix that.
Yeah, I agree with you. That it's, that the needle has barely moved, but other communities have gone, East Greenwich, other communities have gone from 3%. They're at the 10% already, by 2020. And they had affordable housing plans at the same time you did. So they didn't wait till the last 3 years. And it's not up to you to present projects. I don't know how many projects you've had. Maybe you've only had 3 projects under the act. Some communities have had 10. So I don't mean to criticize anybody, but for the developer to build and pay for units, the state law determined that 25% was the amount that the developer should have to pay. And these cases are appealed to the State Housing Appeals Board. There's a large body of authority up there that says that the developers don't have to do more than 25%. It's not all gonna happen at once.
Well,
But it's incremental, and these are 40 units that the town doesn't have right now, that will make a major difference.
well, my opinion is, I think you have way too many homes that going into that area. And I think it's gonna be a flood after you put all of them in.
It's gonna be a what? I'm sorry,
It's gonna be a flooding problem.
flooding.
If you don't put extra, I don't think two ponds are gonna do enough. I think you gotta look into it and reduce the number of homes. That's my opinion.
I think what Mr. Garofalo said is that there are five ponds on the proposal right now, and that those have been sized to handle our drainage to meet the requirement that not a drop of water goes off, no increase in the volume or rate of runoff of stormwater from that property. Now, if somehow Mr. Garofalo, who's a very experienced engineer, is wrong in those calculations, that's the standard that DEM's looking at to make sure we're not making any problem any worse than it already is. That's a standard we're held to by the state. There's a very complex process of engineering at the state level to confirm that that's the case. And if we have to have larger drainage ponds and that results in lower density, that's the way it's gonna have to be. But we don't see it that way. But the good thing is that this process takes place before anything gets approved. So if we
I-
need more drainage ponds, we're gonna have to install them.
See, I can't see it that way right now because I don't have the numbers in front of me from DEM.
Right. And
Thank
we
you.
don't either. So, but that's not this stage. This is the concept stage. DEM happens at preliminary, but there's a lot that happens between now and then.
All right, that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Landry. I know a lot of more information is going to be a preliminary. This is a conceptual plan at master plan.
Correct.
This is subject or probably will change.
Absolutely.
I've done a
Those
lot of
units-
these in the 17 years I've been on, and they don't mirror what is presented.
Well, I've
So-
seen that too. We're not gonna get any more units,
But saying that,
but there may be less.
well, you added units for the commercial, which I was kind of surprised at.
Yeah.
We're already looking at, to me, too much density and you're adding. So, anybody else on the board have any, go ahead, John.
I also had concerns with my colleague.
Just speak up as loud as you can, John.
I also have some concerns with the density of the housing. I really think it's too condensed for the area. But some of the other concerns I have, when we met the last time, we talked about the mixed use with the soccer field. It wasn't my understanding leaving the meeting, I could be wrong, but it wasn't just the soccer field or something else, but more mixed use in general. Also, I did see that you eliminated what was being called the fire exit earlier. Is that the case?
I do still see on the plan an outlet on the north end of the property. I'm not sure if that's a fire exit or not. I'm gonna have to ask Mr. Garofalo to address that.
So this is about the crash gate location that we discussed? Is that what you're talking about, John? Going into what estates?
Into Wisteria.
Into Wisteria where we
Yeah.
talked about a crash gate only?
Yeah, there's no second connection in the back proposed any longer. So when we came here the first time, the proposal was a single main entrance and a secondary emergency egress out the back. We changed that plan in favor of two primary entrances onto the fronting roads and have eliminated the connection.
Okay, thank you. And my last question was about the traffic report, which I know you haven't had a chance to discuss with your professional, but I didn't see anything in there about the Maple Route, which is right across from your southern entrance exit. Is that going to be added into the traffic study at that intersection?
It could. That sometimes happens. Either your peer reviewer might require it, or these are two state highways. So that the Department of Transportation is also going to do a traffic analysis, and they may require tests at different locations. And I don't want to start being the traffic engineer here, but if we're not adding any more traffic to Maple Route, whatever the traffic is that Maple Route is adding to Hill Farm,
I just don't see, my question would be, I understand we're not adding anything to Maple Route, but Maple Route has people coming out, making left and right
Yeah.
turns at the same intersection that you're putting your exit at. So I want to
Yes.
know what the conflicts would be for
Yeah.
people that live in that neighborhood trying to get
We
in
will
and out.
take note of that. That's a perfectly appropriate question, and we'll address that with the traffic.
Thank you.
experts.
Go ahead, Jim.
Scarafalo, just a couple of quick things, more observations than questions. When I was looking through the plans, I don't see any areas for like snow push. When it snows, where you guys are gonna push the snow. The roundabouts, cul-de-sacs, no middle islands. I think we made that clear, the last one, and this is still showing middle islands with trees in it. That's a problem for Department of Works and for fire trucks trying to turn around too. Even though you may have the width to turn, it's still a real issue. One thing about the traffic, the town engineer did make a comment that the exit coming out on Hartney Hill that Mr. Priest was talking about across from Maple Route, it also infringes on the turn lane to go on to, what's that road? Hill Farm, thank you, onto Hill Farm. So I'd ask that your traffic engineer take a look at that again, because that could be a potential issue with cars trying to make into that turning lane and somebody else trying to come out. Looking at your plans for construction, where you have your construction entrance, you have the washout area. Then right next to that, you have the refueling area for your vehicles that are on the site. That's right next to the roadway. Being a construction project manager for the military for quite a while, that's not a good mix to have a refueling area right next to a state highway. I'd ask that you take a look at that. Wildlife DEM is going to address that. That's all I have right now, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else on this side? Go ahead, Rick.
I just wanted to maybe preface my remarks a little bit because this application took somewhat of, sorry, this application took a little bit of a, there was kind of a gap in between, and then we had the issue with were they going to change the zoning. So I think it's been quite a few months. So I have, you know, as I started thinking about this application coming before us tonight and not having yet reviewed my packet, I started to think about some of the points that you made about the gateway to Coventry and how we could maybe make this work. So with that, I mean, I have some questions. Were any other sites looked at for the soccer field after the last meeting? Because it seems there was a lot of concern about the amount of traffic at peak times that would be entering and exiting. There's no traffic signal at this location, but yet right up the street, we've got that nice vacant old storefront site where Stop and Shop is looking for a non-competing use. I don't know if how firm are you on the alternative with the soccer versus the retail?
Well, we have two alternative uses. I think once you get a chance to look at the traffic report, the peak hour loads for the traffic for the soccer are part of the count. And they're fairly significant in relation to other traffic, but they don't affect the level of service. So you'll see how the traffic of the sports facility is factored in, and it ends up being those favorable results that I've described. We haven't gone looking for another place for the soccer. Soccer came to us.
Right.
We were advised by the town that someone had an idea for soccer that the planner at the time thought would be a good thing for the town. We still think it's a good thing. It's part of our project, but that's what this concept stage is for, is to test, what the limits are of this project. We have not seen anything empirically in the traffic analysis that is any type of a showstopper for the soccer field. But I will leave that to the traffic people and you and your peer review to vet that and see if everybody's on the same page with that.
And that was a recent discovery of mine that the former planning director may have suggested that, because in my mind, when I started thinking about how this site might work as the gateway, when you approach Coventry from Route 3 heading northbound and you're at that viewpoint that you have there, how nice it would be to have some type of small retail development in the front, maybe some architectural features, a wall, a clock, some landscaping, and then not the type of retail businesses that aren't really the thing I would want in my backyard, that has, let's say, dumpsters and grease, or restaurants or drive-throughs that are high traffic, but like banks, they're always well kept. Some of the facades that you showed in the buildings, I think they're great. I think, and again, it's more commentary than anything else. I don't have an issue, although density is still a problem, but I would rather see the commercial aspects closer to the view corridor with the landscaping and put the apartments at the other end. But of course, I don't know. And because right now, when you get to that, you're going to be looking at the 7 apartment buildings that exceed 1 story and an asphalt parking lot versus what might provide a more appeasing view. But I favor the retail over the soccer. And the only reason I bring that up is I'm familiar with another location in Portsmouth. It's not soccer. It's another sport. It's either rugby or lacrosse or something. And I'll tell you, on Saturdays and Sundays, when people come out of there, they just had to put a light in. There's been more accidents because the traffic just comes in and out of there like crazy when the games get out and get in. And it's actually a nuisance to everyone else in the area. I talked about the view corridor, the access points, I guess. I didn't see really any concept in there for recreation. I know Mr. Price just brought up the issue about the fire gate in the back. I don't know if there would be any benefit to having a shared use type path where folks that wanted to go walking so they didn't have to walk out to Route 3 or Hockney Hill Road, may be able to access the sidewalks in the neighborhood and vice versa. Although I understand these are private roads going to be maintained by the condominium association, so that may limit the vice versa. The only other question I had is, and I know you did a pretty good presentation when it talks about the concept of affordable housing and what the developer has to do to set the price for the units. And again, the example was if mortgage rates go up, then that lowers the affordability calculation such that the developer has to basically lower the price. And similarly, at mortgage rates dropped and there seems to be more demand for housing, he could maybe recoup some of his investment and raise the price. Similarly, and this is what I don't want to see happen because it happened in the other affordable complex, they set the condominium fees on the affordable units, even although they're identical and integrated throughout the development, at less than the market rate units, so that they could garner more money for the units themselves. So I would ask that if all these units are going to be identical, that everybody in there should be paying the same condominium fee. They're all using the roads and they're all using the services. Because that was basically just a game that those lower fees are going to be passed on to the market rate homeowners to the benefit of the developer recouping a higher sale price for the units.
I think I can address that. As part of the Rhode Island housing submission, we had to declare a condo fee, what it likely is, because they factor that in determining what the affordable price can be. The higher the condo fee, the lower the price. And we did submit a uniform fee, and they do take that into consideration. I know there are other developments, I've done them, where the affordable units get a break, and sometimes it's the planning board that wants to see that, thinking that it's not gonna be as easy for these folks to pay the condo fee because they don't have the same money that the other people do that are doing the market rates, and they want to make sure everybody pays. So everybody's got a different opinion on that, but my recollection of this project is that there was only a single fee, and I think it was $250, which is consistent with other developments.
And I realize none of that's locked in, but it just seemed to me when I saw the condo documents get recorded and I realized those were all lower, I said, God, if I moved in there, I wouldn't want to be paying more. But when other folks are getting the same services that I'm getting. So at this point, again, the only, so maybe we could look at making this more of a signature project if we're going to go forward with something. I'm not that crazy about the density. Nobody ever is. I also agree with Mr. Ray's comments that, and I realize it's the law, but when you're taking 25% of 100, 25 units, but you add 75 market, it's like swimming against the tide. You're never going to get to your 10% goal. This statute doesn't really benefit towns, in my opinion, reaching their affordable housing goal, but it is what it is. I would like to see less density because I don't think we're going to really put that big of a dent into our affordable housing project. I'd like to see more recreation in there, maybe a little more open space, and make it a nice place to come upon when you come into Coventry. If we're going to do this project, I'd like to see it done right. And as far as the traffic study goes, I guess we'll just wait until we have that. I think you answered my question. The levels of service that were analyzed at the locations did take into account the soccer. I don't know if they changed with the retail. Maybe they'd be less.
Well, we didn't redo the retail thinking the soccer was significantly greater than what the retail was likely to be.
And I was going to make the same, and I think you acknowledged it. Ultimately, it's Rhode Island DOT that's going to have the say on whether that intersection at Hockney Hill, which in my opinion is probably one of the most dangerous intersections in town. I'm not talking about the number of collisions, but the severity. With that free right turn there, the stacking now to go left onto Hockney Hill Road if you're coming in from 95 at the end of the day is probably 20 cars. It well exceeds the center lane where they've dedicated and probably a couple of light changes. So that's going to be a significant problem over there, but we'll let the experts handle it. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson?
Hi, Mr. Landry.
Hello.
Nice dealing. Just to so I thought it was Nooseneck Hill Road, right, that the DOT is going to be looking at too. So sure. So I believe it was Nooseneck Hill Road that the RIDOT is going to have to get involved. Did you send them that traffic study already? Did you send them that traffic study?
No, we have not applied for the physical alteration permit yet. That's something that we're required to produce to you by the final plan stage. We'll do some more engineering. We will submit that at the preliminary plan stage. That's a checklist requirement. for preliminary, not master plan.
Okay. And the sewer, you spoke that, I think you said there was an agreement. Is that like for something that is hinged on this whole project, it's still not etched in stone? Like is it done deal? You have sewer capability, that's a go? Or is it not officially?
I will tell you that the contract with the person who controls the sewer line has been negotiated. It hasn't been signed. And the sewer application is before the sewer commission. At this time, it has been since November. So we're gonna try to see what we can do to move that along. It's been a long time. Been a lot of changes in the town since November. A lot of other things that people are focused on. That's really a town council sewer committee function. But it's something that we're working on simultaneously with this master plan stage of review. We've got the site control. We're confident that the agreements will be executed. And Garofalo has calculated the capacity. So, from a conceptual point of view, we don't see any showstoppers on the sewer, but it's nothing's ever done with finality at the concept plan stage,
Okay, and I was just wondering if there was any hangups on it. That's why there's
No.
such a delay.
No, that has not been an issue.
And then of course, right, density. You're right, density. Just, I mean, other than the obvious, just thank you for shrinking, for extending that buffer, right? We asked for that. It was originally 40 feet.
Yeah.
Right? I think you're gonna keep us an extra 20 of vegetation. Is that accurate? Right? It's just not gonna be yard. It's all gonna be vegetation. Say again? Okay, no cut buffer, 60 feet.
No, 40 feet is the no cut buffer.
Right, and then we added 20. I was excited
We
to
add
hear that.
20 is an additional setback to our buildings. The no cut buffer is 40, unless I'm misunderstanding it, John.
So so the 20 feet you added, you're still gonna cut that down. Okay, so again, we're back like to square one. I remember it was asked that we just, and the density would assist in this, right? I think the town, those households existing now have had the advantage of having, I believe it's what, 100 foot right now? Is that accurate? About 100 foot of woodland?
It's probably a lot.
Right.
It's
And
100 foot of woodland, then there's a big meadow, but.
right. This is more the woodland areas. Again, shrinking the density would help with that setback. One, and also, I mean, we're not gonna hop on the traffic because we were told that, we don't have all the facts and somebody to answer that here, right? But just to put in perspective, in this report, based on, the site investigation as noted earlier with the results we had of the problem being a Nooseneck Hill and at Hockney Hill, 8 accidents. And since the added lane for the right turn, in 2022, it substantially went down. Those of us that drive it every day, we love that right lane. Again, density. By putting this new road in where it's going, I mean, we're just compounding back on the problem that was there prior. We're just moving it, what would that be? South, I believe. We're just compounding that problem. Now, if anything, what would solve that? Just density. So even though we're creating another intersection that is identical, minus the one across the street, Maple Route, to the one that they improved on, right? We're creating almost the same hazard, I think, as far as vehicular traffic goes, and maybe pedestrian too. I just wanted to note that. Again, density, I think, would assist, would help that matter also. And that's more traffic. This is all traffic. I'll wait till the next meeting. And I just want to note that, I did look up the A, B, C, D, and everything else. And I'm glad I saw this. So D, which we did score D, it is actually right in that area, where we're at in the road. So we did bring it up to D, which is, the C is stable flow, acceptable delays, right? D is approaching, unacceptable flow or unstable flow. And you actually, by creating this, this development, say with that road, we moved up, well, moved down, downgraded to a D in that one area that I'm speaking of. And I think the only resolution, is density. And I'll leave it at that. Thanks. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, you're next.
Mr. Laundry, thank you. I'm not going to keep beating up what my colleagues have repeated about Maple Root Road, but Maple Root Road, at one time, that road was a cut through from Hockney Hill Road to Route 3. And some 15, 20 years ago, because of the excessive amount of traffic going through that little neighborhood, the town put a guardrail or barrier at the end of that road. So just residents would be in that neighborhood. So that the only way those people on Maple Root Road and Stair Lane can get out is out Maple Root Road. So where your southwest entrance and exit comes out of the proposed development, it's going to be head to head with the people on Maple Root Road. So I would like to see that added as part of your traffic study. So the residents that live on Maple Root Road and Stair Lane, they have no option to get out other than that. And, as we know, people from Hockney Hill Road, Hill Farm Road, it all kinds of adjoin there. And it could potentially back up by Dollar General, as Mr. Anderson was saying. So just add that to the traffic study. The width of the roads, I saw our town engineer did have a comment on them where they were down to 22 feet wide. I've got some background in roads. I agree with the town engineer. I think that's kind of tight, especially for fire apparatus or rubbish trucks and traffic trying to pass them. So, town engineer did comment he'd like to see 24 feet. So we just make the width of the road to 24 feet a consideration for safety concerns, for fire apparatus, snow removal. You get a heavy snowstorm and they're trying to widen the road. You're starting at 22 feet. It gets pretty narrow pretty quick with if you get a 12-inch snowstorm. On the commercial end, I'm not a big fan of the soccer thing. Thank you for bringing the commercial as an option. We have lots of soccer fields around, very close by up on Fish Hill Road. I think soccer would add a traffic at an impulse rate, where if it was like a bank or a dentist's office or a doctor's office, professional buildings out front, there would be less traffic at a predetermined time. And like the testimony that we had earlier, there were specific times that soccer would be changing, where one group of people would be coming in and another coming out. So that's a big traffic flow all at once. But if it was a bank or a dentist's office, there would be less of that activity, more spread out during the day. Because if people are coming home from work and soccer was letting out around the same time, that would just create a lot of traffic. And I think we have some opportunity, like my other colleagues have said too, to do some commercial businesses in front with some nice landscaping and make that kind of the gateway to Coventry. Yeah. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mrs. Eldred.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. They've asked a lot of the questions that I've had to ask. I am going to say that the density is definitely an issue. My concerns are also with the traffic and where they're coming out. I will hold those comments until we have a traffic person available to speak to. The soccer fields and the traffic that is going to be proposed from the soccer field is going to be a lot more than I believe you are indicating. I would be looking more towards the retail end of this. However, I would like to see less density, maybe one retail building, a beautiful park in the middle of this area. Why not offer the town, if you're going to put in housing units in there, then offer them a place to play tennis, offer them a swimming pool, make it look beautiful, make it look like a town, like where somebody would want to come and live. Not throw a soccer field in there, throw a ton of traffic, spread out the houses, make it more attractive to the town. to the people around it. I think basically that's all I have for thoughts. And I thank you for your time, Mr. Landry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Like I said, I don't want to be redundant because we don't want the audience to be redundant. But if you're looking for a warm fuzzy feeling from me tonight on density, you're not going to get it because there's way too much going on in that parcel. I can't see people leaving that soccer field, taking a left off of 4 lanes of traffic going down to Burger King or McDonald's. That to me, I don't want that on my shoulders and my head. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. My daughter got in a very severe accident coming out of the high school, cutting through Wood Estates, going 4 lanes of traffic. She's lucky she's living. So I just can't put that on my back. And the sewer, we got 92 units in Woodland Manor 3 going into that unit, into the sewer. I don't know if the pump station is going to have to be upgraded. You need to look into that because I don't know what the feasibility is for that pump station to handle more sewage coming out of your development. So that's all I have now. I have a lot of issues with traffic, but I don't want to address them tonight. Is there anybody else on the board? All right, I just want to repeat again that the next meeting will be on August 9th. It's a Wednesday. Be on the town website. You can call the planning office. It will be publicized. Come on up, Doug. This is our planner, Doug McLean.
Good evening. My name is Doug McLean, town planner. I'd like to just briefly announce how you could engage with the project if you're interested and how you can find out the location of the next meeting. We are going to research a location that will fit the right amount of people in a comfortable environment. We anticipate that within a week before that meeting, right on the town's website, right on the front page, we're going to make it very obvious the location for the August 9th meeting. So if you'd just like to keep that date in mind, review the town website about a week before, you'll know exactly where you need to head. It'll be a location in the town somewhere. We just need to find the right venue. I'd also like to add that if you're interested in providing a comment on this project and you can't attend that meeting, you can send any comment you'd like in writing to me via email. You can find my email by going to the town webpage, go to the planning department page. My name's Doug McLean and my email is right on there. You can send any comment you'd like on the project to my email and I'll ensure that it's part of their packet. Please send that to me about a week before the meeting to allow us time to get it and to prepare it in the packets for the planning commission members. That's the announcement I have.
Thank you. So again, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. It wasn't a very great place as far as the heat and humidity. We're going to make it better for the next one for sure. But we do appreciate people coming up and speaking their mind. Just try to be considerate. I know there's a lot of emotions in the room, but please try to be considerate. Thank you very much for all coming tonight. What? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to continue this to Wednesday, August 9th.
I'll make a motion to continue this to Wednesday, August 9th.
I have a motion by Mrs. Elderkin. It is at 6:30, by the way.
I'll second it.
Yes, continue the meeting and the public hearing. Thank you.
I'll
For
amend-
Wednesday,
I'll-
August 9th.
I'll amend that to include the public hearing and the meeting.
Thank you. I have a second.
I'll second it.
I have a second by Mr. Smith. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks again, everybody, for coming out. Okay, we have the director's report. Anything on the director's report?
Nothing to report tonight.
Huh?
Nothing to report tonight.
Okay. All right, also on the agenda, we have public comment. Anybody on Zoom? Anybody on Zoom, raise their hands. Seeing none.
Anyone in the audience, public comment?
Anybody in the audience have public comment other than what we're talking about tonight? Okay, seeing none. I'll make a motion for adjournment.
Motion and second. Mr.
I have a
Chair.
motion and a second. Thank you, everybody. Meeting is adjourned.